What's going on, guys? It's your boy Nick coming at you today on the channel with a combo tutorial and test hand video for my updated Mutant Ghoti deck list. Now, I made a profile on this particular deck on my channel about a week ago now, which I will leave a link in the description to down below. That deck, like I said, is probably the most definitive version of Mutant Ghoti that I have built on the channel thus far. And like I said, I've been testing this deck religiously, and it's been honestly working out extremely well. Being paired with the Ghoti cards, there's just so much synergy here. Like, it's almost like mutants, they needed like good cards to banish, and Ghoti just needed a deck that was able to banish them a little bit more precisely, if that makes any kind of sense. So they both synergize with each other quite well. And like I promised in the deck profile, that I wanted to bring you guys a combo tutorial and test hand. Now this is using the new Ghoti cards out of Darkwing Blast. Specifically, we are running stuff like the Zep, as well as Snopios, Shade of the Ghoti, and then Zep, I believe. Here it is, Zep, Ruby of the Ghoti. We'll be using the brand new Ghoti cards, and like I said, I just want to showcase you guys some of the combos, and then we'll do a couple test hands and see how it all turns out. For those of you who are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. We do live duel videos, deck profiles, and other types of very cool and unique Yu-Gi-Oh! Related content around different rogue decks. If those are things that you're interested in, then I highly encourage that you subscribe. We are just a few subscribers away from hitting that 600 subscriber benchmark, and we are slowly working our way to 1,000 subs, and I cannot get there without your help. So please, if you're watching this right now and you haven't subscribed, I highly encourage you to do so, because I can almost guarantee that there'll be content here that you will like. So with that being said, we are going to start off with a simple one-card combo, because I'm sure there's many of you here who are not too familiar with how Mutant Ghoti works, and you may have heard of their archetypes, but you're not exactly sure what they're capable of. Fear not, I'm here to showcase you guys the intricacies of a lot of different things, and we're going to start off with a simple one-card combo. That's right, Mutant actually has a one-card combo, believe it or not. So we're going to showcase what that is here. All we need is a single copy of Mutant. This is a more recent mutant card that recently came out of Battle of Chaos, and it's a pretty interesting card. It can special summon itself from the hand as long as you control a mutant card on the field. Keyword there being card, meaning it doesn't have to be a mutant monster specifically. It could also be a spell or trap. But for this particular combo, like I said, all you need is one Mutant. So we're going to go ahead and just normal summon this out from our hand. Keep in mind this card is a level 1 Psychic, which means that you can also E-Telly this card as well. Anyway, normal summon it, and we are going to activate its effect. And its effect states that you can tribute this card from field, and then banish a mutant card specifically from your deck. Now, what's cool about Mutant is that unlike MO5 or ST46, Mutant can banish a mutant card from the deck specifically, whereas Mutant MO5 or ST46, they can banish any cards from hand or field, but it's only from hand or field. Mutant has the added benefit of being able to banish a mutant card specifically from the deck, which makes him pretty versatile. However, there's a drawback with that, because whatever you banish, you're able to summon the appropriate mutant boss based on the type of card banished, whether it was monster, spell, trap, but then you take damage equal to that monster's attack at resolution of this effect. Now, that wouldn't be such a terrible thing if it weren't for the fact that, like, a lot of our mutant bosses have pretty high stats, so you're paying some pretty good amount of life just to field some of these monsters. Now, that's why we only play one copy of Mutant for that reason, because I feel like you're going to resolve this effect once, and that's probably about as much as you want to resolve it, if that makes any kind of sense. Like, we do play 2 copies just for consistency, but if the game goes on long enough, there's probably a high chance that you won't be able to activate a second copy, and you probably sure as hell won't be able to activate a third. But anyway, so we're going to go ahead and tribute this card, and then banish a mutant card of our choice. Now, because it's a mutant card specifically, we can banish like a mutant spell, we can banish a mutant trap, or we can even banish like a mutant monster, for example. And then based on whatever we banish off of Mutant, we're able to summon the appropriate boss monster, being Arsenal from deck in the case of banishing a trap, Mist in the case of banishing a spell, or Beast in the case of banishing a monster. So all we had was a single copy of Mutant, and as long as this effect resolves, we're able to summon one of 3 of our bosses from our deck. We have a Spell, Negate, and Banish. We have a Pot of Greed, basically, if your opponent activates a trap card. And we have a targeted monster banish in the event that the opponent uses any monster effect. All of which are at quick effect speeds, and each of them have various forms of protection. But I just wanted to showcase that for you guys because, like I said, off of one card, you're able to summon some pretty formidable bosses out of your deck. And I just wanted to showcase that because I think a lot of people don't realize that Mutant actually have a one-card combo. With that being said, though, let's go ahead and showcase a hand where we have a Mutant and we have a Ghoti. Because at the end of the day, that's what you guys are here to see, is Mutant-Ghoti combos and see how the deck works with each other. So we're going to have a two-card combo here. Now, keep in mind, this could be a copy of Mutant MO5, but for the purposes of this combo specifically, I will be showing Mutant ST46. So we're going to go ahead and normal summon ST46 from our hand. Keep in mind, ST46 is also an E-Telly target, so if you have E-Telly, the combo works the same way. But we're going to normal summon ST46 and activate its effect upon summon to search for a mutant, spell, or trap. Now, in this case, I believe what makes the most sense is to search for a copy of Mutant Cry from deck to hand. Now we're going to activate the on-field effect of ST46 to tribute itself and banish a card from our hand, in this case being the Paces, and then that allows us to special summon a copy of Mutant Beast from our deck. Now we have the Cry in hand, right? Now there's one of two things that we can do with this. We can either hold it in our hand to serve as a formal follow-up after making a Deep Beyond play, or we can set it and basically have an additional disruption. Because what's going to happen is this board looks very unassuming. You're going to pass turn. Keep in mind, Mutant Beast is a Spell, Negate, and Banish, which is very, very impactful this format. But on the standby, on the next standby phase, since the Paces Light of the Ghoti was banished last turn, it will special summon itself from the banish zone to our side of the field. And since this is now the opponent's turn, Paces grants its ability to be able to allow us to quick synchro into a fish synchro monster specifically. Now, if you notice, Paces happens to be a level 2 tuner, and Mutant Beast happens to be a level 8 non-tuner, which by default allows us to access the Ghoti boss monster in the form of Ghoti of the Deep Beyond, because Ghoti the Deep Beyond is a level 10 synchro requiring fish tuner and then a non-tuner monster, which we have easy access to here. Now, what makes this board so interesting is the fact that, like I said, Mutant Beast is already a Spell Negate, so you already have one form of disruption on the field, but then at any point, you're able to consolidate, as a quick effect, Paces and Beast into a Deep Beyond play, and then activate the Deep Beyond to then banish the entire board. Now, you're probably thinking, well, what if I don't want to do that necessarily? Because if you remember, we did set our copy of Mutant Cry, which is effectively another form of disruption. Like I said, you kind of just feel out how things are going, and this is why sometimes I'll actually hold Mutant Cry in hand. If I know I'm going to be going for a Deep Beyond play specifically, I'll keep this card in hand, I'll go Deep Beyond during the opponent's turn, and then after the board is swept, and they pretty much pass turn, because they usually won't have follow-up after something like that, I'll draw for turn, for example. I drew into a Zep. Deep Beyond will come back, and now at least I have the trap as follow-up. Yes, it's a trap, I have to set it, but now Deep Beyond will have some form of attack, and I'll be able to, swing over something. They probably won't have a board, most likely. I'll pass turn, and then now I have access to Mutant Cry to be able to shuffle back both my Mutant Beast and my ST46 back into my deck. Think of this as like a pseudo Tri-Brigade Revolt, and then I can fusion summon into a copy of Mutant Synthesis during the opponent's turn, allowing me to also pop a card on summon. So that was just a simple 2-card combo that you can easily access off any of the mutants and any Ghoti, with the exception of Zep, and we'll get into why Zep is so special. But like I said, Paces could have also been subbed for a Shift, and the combo still would have worked the same, just as if instead of ST46, we could have also had an MO5 and achieved the same goal. Now, like I was saying before, both of these archetypes have great synergy with one another, and I think they complement each other quite well. Now, if you switch things up a bit, and let's just say you go MO5, just had it in my hand, there it is. So let's say we normal summon the MO5, activate its effect, and then we will search a copy of Mutant to our hand. Keep in mind, MO5 is another E-Telly target, so if you have E-Telly, it works the same. You can special Mutant because you control a mutant card. Then activate the effect of mutant tributing itself, banishing a mutant card from the deck. In this case, we'll banish like an expansion. And then we can actually go ahead and field ourselves a copy of Arsenal. And then even this alone, like again, you still have fodder basically off of the Arsenal. If you did want to use its effect to banish, you can banish the MO5 as cost for that Arsenal's effect and still keep things going. But what I want to show you specifically here is a combo that you guys haven't seen before on my channel. And this is how the Lifeless Leafish works using the new GHOTI support. So we're going to go ahead and normal summon our Lifeless Leafish and activate its effect to go ahead and send a fish monster from our deck to the graveyard. Again, as I explained in the deck profile, the target for this is going to be a copy of Schiff, Fairy of the GHOTI. Go ahead and Foolish Burial that to our graveyard. Then we're going to activate the effect of Schiff, targeting the Leafish, banishing Schiff from grave, and giving Leafish an additional 500 attack to the end of this turn. Keep in mind, the attack buff is irrelevant. We don't care about it. All we really cared about is the fact that Schiff was able to banish itself from the graveyard. And with this, we will actually pass our turn. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to pass. This looks like almost nothing. Opponent's going to draw, and then on their standby phase, because Schiff was banished last turn, it will summon itself to our side of the field. And because it's special summoned during the opponent's turn, we are able to quick effect synchro summon into a fish synchro monster using Schiff's effect on field. So, because it's a quick effect, we can time it just right, so where we can hit our opponent where it hurts the most. So let's just say, you know, they're making their board and we want to decide to activate Schiff. We'll go Schiff and quick sync using the Lifeless Leafish and Schiff into the brand new card, Yugioh. That would be Serpent of the GHOTI. Keep in mind, this is all during the opponent's turn. Upon the summon, Yugioh's effect triggers. If this card is synchro summoned, you can banish a level 6 or lower fish monster from your deck. Now, usually the best target for this will actually be a copy of Zep. And the reason being is that Zep, when it's banished during the opponent's turn specifically, it will special summon itself immediately and then allow you to quick sync into a fish synchro monster. Now, if let's say you already drew the Zep, or Zep's like engraved because you know you burned it earlier in the duel, then I would just recommend banishing either a Schiff or a Paces, whichever one that you don't already have in rotation, if that makes sense. Yes, you won't get any value off of it until the next standby, and that's just how it is, like I said. In this case, though, we're going to go ahead and banish Zep specifically. Then upon Zep's banishment, during the opponent's turn, it will special itself. And now we have the ability to quick sync again. Keep in mind, this is all during the opponent's turn. So we'll take our Zep and our Yugioh and sync into a level 8 here. Now what's cool about this is that we can go into something like Azcan, the Bicorn GHOTI, and then we can go Azcan as Chainlink 1, Yugioh as Chainlink 2, or vice versa. If we want to chain block, we can go Yugioh as Chainlink 1, Azcan as Chainlink 2, however you want to do it. Well, for the purposes of this particular combo, we'll go Azcan Chainlink 1, Yugioh Chainlink 2. And it states, if this card is used, sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can target a fish in your grave, banish that target, then you can add one fish with an equal or lower level from the deck to your hand. So in this particular instance, we're going to go ahead and banish the Yugioh, allowing us to add a level 6 or lower fish from deck to hand. And in case you guys weren't aware, that allows us to add a copy of Snopios from deck to hand, which is very, very cool. Then we go Azcan as Chain 1, targeting itself and any card the opponent controls, banish them. Then, upon Azcan's banishment, we can activate its effect to banish a fish from our graveyard. In this case, it could be a copy of Schiff, to revive the Azcan back to our field. And now we have a Snopios in hand, and we have a Schiff that's going to be coming back on the next standby, allowing us to go for a level 10 synchro play. All the while, we banished a card they controlled, and literally all of this started off of just one copy of Leaffish, which is, again, why we run the Leaffish in the deck, because it actually sparks a pretty sick combo line. So that was that particular combo that I wanted to showcase, which is the Leaffish combo. But now, I want to go ahead and get into a couple of test hands. That way I can show you guys how the deck actually works in a real-life setting. So I'm going to go ahead and pile shuffle here in front of you guys on camera. That way you can see how the actual deck draws, you know, on the tip of a hat. And we can see what kind of board we can end with. Of course, knowing my poor luck, we'll probably open the worst hand ever in Brick, but that's why we do things here live, because I don't like to sugarcoat anything. Everything is just as real as it can possibly be, but I vouch for this deck, and I honestly feel that it can actually pull together a pretty good hand, so we're just going to go ahead and give it a few shuffles, see what we can work with here. I'll even cut, that way you guys know that there's no shady shenanigans, and we will go ahead and draw a 5-card opening hand. Drew the Leafish, drew an Imperm, drew a Draco Utopian Aura, and an E-Telly. Literally cannot make this up. This hand is actually very strong. So assuming we're going first, what we can do here is we can actually activate E-Telly in the draw phase, just to play around things like Veiler or Droll, for example. We can go ahead and special summon from our deck a copy of Mutant MO5. Activate the effect of MO5 upon its summon to go ahead and search for a mutant monster from deck to hand. In this case, let's go ahead and grab a copy of Mutant. Now we'll go standby phase and then enter the main phase. Because we control a mutant monster on field, we can go ahead and special the Mutant from our hand. And here's where things get actually kind of interesting, because we hard opened the Mutant Evolution Lab, and Evolution Lab actually does allow us to search or allow us to special summon a mutant monster that's either banished or from our hand, as long as it's level 4 or lower. The reason why I bring that up is because we searched a copy of Mutant, and we can actually use Mutant to banish a copy of ST46 from our deck to summon out a beast. And then we can activate the Evolution Lab to go ahead and revive that banished ST46 and get another search. So I think that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to lead off with Mutant, tributing itself, and then banishing an ST46 from deck as cost. Then, if it resolves, we will go ahead and special summon a Mutant Beast from our deck, and we already have a Spell Negate on our field, which is pretty strong. Then we can activate a copy of Mutant Evolution Lab, and on activation, this allows us to special summon a level 4 or lower mutant that's banished or in our hand to our side of the field. So we will special summon a copy of ST46 and then activate its effect on summon to search for a mutant spell or trap. In this case, we can probably grab something like a Cry to our hand. And now, keep in mind, we haven't even normal summoned yet, which is absolutely nuts. How do we want to go about this? We can pretty much go MO5 effect here, tributing itself, and we drew so nuts that we don't even need this Imperm in our hands. We're going to go ahead and banish the Imperm as cost to go ahead and actually summon out a copy of our Mutant Arsenal. Keep in mind, off the summon of Beast, we will have lost 2,400 life because of the restriction on Mutant, but that's not a problem. We summoned out Arsenal through MO5, so we don't have to pay life for that particular effect. And now we still have an ST46 on field, but now what we can do is go ahead and summon out a copy of Lifeless Leafish as our normal summon, because we haven't even done that this turn, believe it or not. Activate the effect of Leafish to go ahead and send a fish monster from our deck to the graveyard. In this case, remember what I said, our card of choice here is always going to be a copy of Schiff. So go ahead and Foolish Burial the Schiff to our grave. Hopefully you guys can see that. I'm trying to make sure everything's on camera. And we can go a couple of different routes here. Like, we could basically make a link play if we wanted to, and consolidate both of these into like an Iria the Water Charmer, for example. But there's almost no need to do that, honestly. We can just keep both the Leafish and the ST46 on field. We can go ahead and set a copy of Draco Utopian Aura and set our copy of Cry, and pretty much just pass our turn. Keep in mind, we already have 2 disruptions on field. We have a Spell Negate and a Quick Effect Monster Banish, which is pretty sick. Oh, I'm sorry. Getting a little bit ahead of myself here. Before we end our turn, obviously, we'll activate the Graveyard effect of Schiff, targeting our Leafish, allowing us to banish the Schiff from grave, and granting our Leafish 500 additional attack. Again, the attack gain is irrelevant. Literally doesn't matter. All we care about is the fact that Schiff is able to banish itself from the graveyard. So make sure you don't forget that. Sorry about that. Anyway, we'll pass turn. The opponent will draw, whatever. During the standby phase, Schiff will summon itself since it was banished last turn. And now we have the ability to quick sync into a fish synchro specifically. Now we can take this a few different routes because we already have a level 8 on field. Keep in mind all the mutant bosses are level 8s. So any Ghoti tuner plus a mutant boss equals Deep Beyond immediately, which is pretty sick. But I feel like we can take it a step further rather than banishing the entire board. We can use Shift to go into the Leafish line like I showed you in the test hand, or I'm sorry, in the combo. So keep in mind, Shift's a quick effect, so we can go ahead and activate Shift, making our copy, and then using the Leafish to make our copy of Aeronpost. Go ahead and put that in the extra zone. Activate the effect of Aeronpost to go ahead and banish from our deck a level 6 or lower fish monster, which will be Zep, since we didn't draw the Zep. That's why we just play one Zep. Keep in mind, again, I referenced this in the deck profile, which I'll leave a link in the description below. Zep will special summon itself to field immediately upon it being banished during the opponent's turn. And now we can quick sync. Now again, we can still use Zep in any level 8 mutant to make Deep Beyond if we absolutely have to. But again, because we set up our field so well, I don't think Deep Beyonding is smart unless we really need to. Like, that'll be like an ultimate last resort kind of thing. Like if, you know, let's say for example, you know, things just didn't go our way. But anyway, we can take the Aeronpost and the Zep and go ahead and sync off into, again, a copy of Ascan, the Bicorn Ghoti. Keep in mind, this is all during the opponent's turn. Then at any point, like I said, we can use Arsenal and Beast, and then we can pretty much just banish the ST46 on field as cost to either get a spell negate and banish or a monster banish, both of which are at quick effect speeds. We'll go Chainlink 1 Ascan, Chainlink 2 Aeronpost Engrave. So Aeronpost, we will elect to banish itself. And now the cool thing about this is we did hard open a copy of Draco Utopian Aura. So off of the Aeronpost, if we actually wanted to banish, we can either banish itself, or we can even banish a copy of Zep, since Zep already served its purpose. But either way, what I'm getting at is that because we hard opened the Draco, I know in the combo, we went Aeronpost banish to search Snopios, but I think we can actually take it a more interesting step here by banishing like a Zep and then searching a copy of Paces to our hand, because now we've effectively made our Draco Utopian Aura completely live with its full benefits, and when we activate it to stop a monster effect, we can negate and destroy that monster, then banish the Paces as part of the effect to not only special summon that destroyed monster to our side of the field, and we banish a Paces in the process to go ahead and set up for next standby phase so it returns. Again, not saying you have to do that, but that is open to you since we did hard open the Draco. But anyway, in this case, let's go ahead and say that we did that. So Chainlink 2 Aeronpost, we'll banish the Zep to search the Paces to hand, and then we'll go Ascan, effect targeting itself and any other card they have to banish them. And then we'll activate the effect of Ascan in the banish zone, banishing a fish from our graveyard to revive itself. In this case, we'll banish the Shift. And now we're pretty well set up here. And we also have a copy of Mutant Cry. If we absolutely needed to, let's say we burned one of their disruptions already, we can pretty much just go ahead and consolidate any one of them, whichever one's burned, and go ahead and make a copy of Synthesis during the opponent's turn for an additional disruption. Again, think of this card as like a Tri-Brigade Revolt, but for mutants. And then when Synthesis is summoned, it targets any card in the field and destroys it. And Synthesis, as a quick effect, can make itself immune to any card types of your opponent, whether it's monster, spell, trap, which I think is really, really sick. And then again, like during the standby of the next turn, like, so we'll draw for turn, obviously, drew an MO5, that's absolutely nuts. The Shift will actually come back. And now it is special summoned, but now we have the ability to synchro into any synchro. We're not strictly locked into fish specifically. So we have a ton of options here. And again, like we even top decked another starter. And that's just like off of one test hand. So like I said, this deck does some really goofy stuff, and it's actually a lot more powerful than I think people give it credit for. I will do one more test hand just to make sure that crazy draw that I opened wasn't just a fluke. Like I said, the deck is very consistent. I mean, we drew so well that we didn't even need a copy of Imperm. Like, what does that even tell you? We actually banished the Imperm's cost. So let that just sink in for a bit. But anyway, let's go ahead and do one more test hand real fast. I don't want to make this video too long. But like I said, Mutant Ghoti is actually very, very strong. It has a lot of interesting lines of play, and I totally intend to take this to locals as soon as I get the chance. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to go to my locals just because I've been working way too late. But hopefully that should change in the near future, and I should get back to a more normal work schedule where I can actually leave work at a decent time and potentially go to locals. So we'll see. Hopefully that happens soon. But I just wanted to get this video out because I know a few people have asked for combo tutorials on this already, and I wanted to, you know, keep to my word. So again, we'll cut, and we'll go ahead and draw a 5-card opening hand. Drew the imperm again, an MO5, and another MO5. So this hand isn't as great as the first test hand we did, but this hand is still very much playable. So we're going to go ahead and lead things off with a normal summon MO5 and activate its effect to search for a mutant monster. Now in this case, we hard open the mutant, which is usually what we search off MO5, but since we have it already, we can actually just grab a copy of ST46 here. We can special the mutant from hand since we control a mutant card, and we can go ahead and activate the effect of mutant, tributing itself, and then in this case banishing a mutant trap from deck, so we can go ahead and special summon a copy of Arsenal. We banished the mutant trap from deck this time because I want to keep this imperm in hand, since this opening hand is a little bit weaker than the previous combo line I showed you guys, but it's still very strong though. Now we can actually normal summon ST46 and activate its effect to search for a mutant spell trap. In this case, let's go ahead and grab a copy of Mutant Cry. Then we're going to link both of these off. You guys are going to like this. We're going to make a copy of Sprite Elf. Activate the effect of Elf, targeting MO5 because it is a level 2, specialing the MO5. We've already used its first effect this turn, but we haven't used its secondary effect. So we're going to go ahead and, I guess you can summon it to the zone he points to. Activate its secondary effect, tributing 4 cost, and banishing from our hand a copy of Paces. To go ahead and summon out a copy of Mutant Beast. Now notice how I don't summon Beast to the zone Elf points to. The reason being is because I want to keep the zone open for the Paces when it returns. Just in case the opponent has anything like a Chalice or Imperm, they actually can't prevent the Paces from quick sinking, which is a pretty cool line. And with that, we're actually going to hold the rest of our cards in hand. We're going to pass on the Spell Negate and the Monster Banish, and during the standby phase, Paces will special itself. And now, the reason why I did this is because now we're going to be able to go into a copy of Ghoti the Deep Beyond. You know, whatever the opponent throws at us, we have a Spell Negate and a Monster Banish, but at any point we can go Paces, and keep in mind, Elf's pointing to it, so it can't be targeted. And let's say we go Arsenal and Paces, and now we can go for a Deep Beyond play. Summon the Deep Beyond to the zone Elf points to, again, preventing it from being targeted by anything. And then we'll activate Deep Beyond's effect, banishing the entire board, including everything, all the opponent's cards. And now what's crazy is that if the opponent has follow-up, we still have Imperm in hand. We have no cards on field. So if they continue to play through a full field banish, we can drop an Imperm on them and literally stop them in their tracks. And then we still have an MO5 for follow-up for next turn, plus the Cry. Then, like, for example, we'll draw for turn, we drew an ST46, absolutely nuts, and then Deep Beyond will come back during the standby phase. And like I said, like, now we have, do it all over again. MO5, we can search like Mutant, for example, and then just continue playing from there. And then we still have the Cry, we can set the Cry, shuffle our resources back in the deck. And yeah, like I said, that's just a quick test hand and combo tutorial video I wanted to show you guys with the new Mutant Ghoti support. Hopefully you guys liked the video. Stay tuned for a few more combo tutorials. I want to upload a combo tutorial test hand for my Ninja Crawler deck that I uploaded on the channel, and for my Evil Eye Labyrinth deck that I also uploaded on the channel. If you haven't seen those profiles yet, I highly encourage you do so, because I did put a lot of work into those deck lists, and I think they work out quite well. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much again. Leave a like and comment down below on what you thought, and if you haven't subscribed, please smash that subscribe button. Like I said, help me get to that 1,000 subscriber benchmark.